Malta, a small Mediterranean island nation, is often seen as a picturesque destination with a rich history, beautiful landscapes, and a vibrant tourism industry. But behind the idyllic exterior lies a political system that has been rocked by corruption scandals, institutional dysfunction, and mounting tensions with its fellow EU member states. Combined with controversial policies, such as the sale of passports to wealthy individuals, Malta's political landscape has become increasingly tumultuous, raising concerns about the country's governance and its future within the European Union. One of the defining events in Malta's political crisis was the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia, a prominent investigative journalist who was known for her fearless reporting on corruption, money laundering, and organized crime in Malta. On October 16, 2017, Caruana Galizia was killed by a car bomb near her home, a brutal act that shocked the nation and reverberated across Europe. Her assassination drew international attention to the pervasive corruption in Malta's political system, and the investigation that followed revealed a disturbing level of collusion between politicians, business elites, and criminal networks. Caruana Galizia had been investigating several high-profile corruption scandals at the time of her death, including the Panama Papers leak, which implicated senior members of the Maltese government in offshore tax evasion schemes. Among those named in her reporting were the then Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Keith Schembri, and the former Minister of Energy, Conrad Mizzi, both of whom were linked to secret offshore companies used to funnel money and avoid taxes. Despite the overwhelming evidence of wrongdoing, these individuals were allowed to remain in power for years, highlighting the lack of accountability in Malta's political system. The investigation into Caruana Galizia's murder revealed a network of criminal activity that reached the highest levels of government. Several key figures, including businessman Jorgen Fenech, were arrested and charged in connection with the assassination. Fenech, who was the owner of the secret offshore company 17 Black, had close ties to top government officials and was implicated in corrupt energy deals that Caruana Galizia had been investigating. The slow pace of justice and the perceived interference by government officials in the investigation led to widespread protests in Malta, with citizens demanding transparency, accountability, and the resignation of those involved. In late 2019, Prime Minister Joseph Muscat announced his resignation amidst growing public outrage over the Caruana Galizia case and the corruption scandals that had engulfed his administration. While Muscat's resignation was seen as a victory for those seeking justice for Caruana Galizia, it did little to address the deeper structural problems in Malta's political system. Corruption, lack of transparency, and weak rule of law continue to plague the country, undermining public trust in its institutions. One of the most contentious issues in Malta's political landscape is the country's Golden Passport Scheme, officially known as the Individual Investor Program, IIP. Introduced in 2014, the IIP allows wealthy individuals from outside the European Union to obtain Maltese citizenship in exchange for a significant financial investment. In practice, this means that individuals can effectively buy their way into the EU, gaining access to the bloc's visa-free travel, financial markets, and other benefits. The scheme has been highly lucrative for Malta, generating hundreds of millions of euros in revenue. However, it has also drawn sharp criticism from other EU member states and international organizations who argue that it undermines the integrity of EU citizenship and poses a security risk. Critics of the Golden Passport Scheme argue that Malta has been too lax in its vetting process, allowing individuals with questionable backgrounds to obtain EU citizenship. Several reports have revealed that some of the individuals who acquired Maltese passports have been involved in money laundering, tax evasion, and other criminal activities. This has sparked outrage among fellow EU member states, who have called on Malta to reform or abolish the program. The European Commission has repeatedly expressed concerns about the potential risks posed by the scheme, warning that it could facilitate corruption and undermine the EU's efforts to combat financial crime. In response to the criticism, Malta has made some changes to the IIP, tightening the requirements for applicants and introducing stricter due diligence procedures. However, these reforms have not fully addressed the concerns of Malta's European neighbors, and the program remains a source of tension between Malta and the EU. The Golden Passport Scheme has become a symbol of Malta's broader governance challenges, as it exemplifies the country's willingness to prioritize short-term financial gain over long-term institutional integrity. Malta's political dysfunction is further complicated by its small size and close-knit political elite. The country's population is just over 500,000, and its political landscape is dominated by two major parties, the Labour Party and the Nationalist Party. This duopoly has created a highly polarized environment, where political loyalties often take precedence over accountability and transparency. Many of the key figures implicated in corruption scandals have long-standing ties to both political parties, making it difficult to pursue meaningful reform. As a result, Malta's political system remains mired in cronyism and patronage, with little incentive for change. The international community has also raised concerns about Malta's role as a hub for money laundering and financial crime. The country's financial services sector has come under scrutiny for its lax regulatory oversight, which has made it an attractive destination for illicit financial flows. Several high-profile money laundering cases involving Maltese banks have further damaged the country's reputation, leading the European Union and international organizations like the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, to pressure Malta to improve its regulatory framework. In 2021, Malta was placed on the FATF's Grey List, a designation that signals increased scrutiny of the country's financial practices. This was a significant blow to Malta's standing in the international financial community and highlighted the need for serious reforms. The combination of high-level corruption, controversial policies like the Golden Passport scheme, and Malta's weak rule of law has left the country in a precarious position both domestically and internationally. Public trust in the government is at an all-time low, and Malta's standing within the European Union has been severely undermined. While the assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia shone a spotlight on the deep-rooted problems in Malta's political system, the challenges the country faces are far from being resolved. Institutional reform, stronger accountability measures, and greater transparency are urgently needed if Malta is to overcome its current political crisis and restore public faith in its governance. Ultimately, Malta's political mess is the result of years of unchecked corruption, weak institutions, and controversial policies that have alienated its European neighbors. The assassination of Daphne Caruana Galizia exposed the dark underbelly of Maltese politics, and the country's Golden Passport scheme has further strained its relationship with the EU. As Malta grapples with these issues, the need for reform has never been more urgent.